Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Soul Worthy Love, where we explore that love is safe, and if it's not safe, it's not love. And I'm excited because today we are adding a man to our podcast so you can bring more of a man experience of being conscious in a relationship. So I would like to introduce you to Jordan Bosker. He's an amazing guy. I've known him for quite a few years, and what I really love about Jordan is he would come to see me and say, I want this, but I'm doing this, or I can feel something is blocking me. And so I think he's going to be a really good source of feedbacks and questions and comments that can make our podcast super interesting and promote growth for everybody. So welcome, Jordan.
Thank you for that
And
intro.
if you if you could share with us a little bit what you've discovered over the years about what it means to have a consciously loving relationship, where you were at and what's your journey been. And by the way, Jordan just had a beautiful little baby.
I
And
do,
so,
yeah. He's almost six. Oh no, he's 4.5 months, almost 5 months. Actually, 5 months exactly a week from today, which is
so
crazy.
this is the time goes by
I
fast, but
know.
this is what's really cool because we have people in different cycles of relationships. So Jordan comes along now with a baby. So there's parents listening to us right now because I can tell you from experience that when we have a baby, it's a tough period for a relationship because we stop listening as much to our own needs to put the attention on the baby, so parents get tired. And it's super important to be conscious. And because when we get tired, the little baby part of us wants to
Mm-hmm.
have attention, but your partner is drained, you're drained. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy to start being upset and be thinking, oh, I got the wrong partner, when no, we just need to take a deep breath and realize the reason why this is happening is we need a long time and we are with the right person and become conscious. So big story around. So tell us a bit about you and your journey.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think back. So I think when I first started coming to you, it was back in 2015, I want to say, or 16, something around that range.
I don't remember.
No, you know what? Sorry, no, it was 2018 because what dragged me into your office is I did an ayahuasca journey and it was not a good experience.
Yeah.
And I think, like I was always a little bit of a seeker, and hence why I would try to do a psychedelic, or I studied Tantra when I was really young. And coming to you, sort of, you were able to talk to my Western mind to understand a lot of the spiritual principles that I was trying to learn, but couldn't fully comprehend and integrate. So I think the the biggest difference I noticed when I came to you was really understanding this difference between reaction and responding. Like, am I reactionary or am I responsive? And
Mm-hmm.
then understanding, wait, okay, I'm being reactionary. Why am I being reactionary? And who's even reacting to what's happening? So, which, is there's many layers as you start to like uncover it. But when I started to see that with you, my curious mind now had a little bit more of an understanding of, like, I could understand the language you were saying to me, and I went really deep into it. And I was like, okay, so if I've been running my whole life out of this like reactionary place, why, like, why do I take such offense to ABC thing, when really my conscious mind is like, it's not a big deal. But I'd found myself getting dragged into sort of the emotion and the drama of it, and then being able to work through these things with you. It's interesting how life just became a lot more calm. Actually, recently I was working with somebody, and he's like, I've never seen someone who's able just to I do react here and there still, but he was like, you're I gotta give it to you, you're really good at just sort of keeping your cool through different things and not taking it personally. And a big part of that is understanding this whole reaction versus responsive mechanism.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So what did you learn specifically about the journey? Because one of the big things I want to talk about, that the reason why people are afraid of relationships is often because when we were younger, we were infatuated.
Mm-hmm.
We put somebody on the pedestal and they were like everything we ever wanted to be, which never works. So now we become resentful and depressed. And so now we're afraid of relationships, but through becoming conscious, we realize that love is actually this. Love is wanting the best for another being while respecting our needs, which demands that we put worth on ourselves and don't put somebody on the pedestal. And I need it at all. I need this person at all costs. Otherwise, I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. And I'm better hang on for dear life for this one, or the opposite, where since I'll never have who I want, I'm not going to get, invested in doing any of these things. So how can you talk about your journey about, learning about infatuation, love, and commitment? How can you put us through your journey of understanding on that?
Yeah, so what comes to me as you're talking to me, I think the biggest thing that I realized was that we all have the same core wound of abandonment. And if you look even at the Catholic Church, their biggest weapon against somebody was to excommunicate them, not to kill them. So this idea of being excommunicated and kicked out of your, everybody that you know and love, and like this idea of like really hitting that abandonment wound. I think we're all really scared of that. And then how we respond to it comes out in those two sort of different ways you're saying. So it's like, okay, I have this person who's everything that I want that can fill that void. They'll always be there to make me not feel abandoned. And then you sort of grab onto them like desperately. Or people become a little bit more avoidant where they're like, yeah, I don't ever want to feel that thing of abandonment. So I'm just going to proactively abandon myself from any situation, be in it to the level that I'm comfortable in. And oftentimes when you're in that position, you're triggering the other response in somebody. So they're becoming really clingy to you. And then you sort of have this weird power dynamic of like, no one's going to be able to abandon me because I'm the one in control. So I think it all comes down to that like core wound. And then understanding that all that's sort of bullshit and not real, I think is really important, because what I think, the way that you've sort of packaged spirituality, I don't want to use it like and not in a negative way at all, just like your sort of viewpoints around it. We're all here learning the same lesson, but at the end of the day, and this is something I picked up, like if you look at the word alone and all one, it's the same thing. So it's like we're all this oneness anyway, so there is no idea of abandonment, but you have to get to a point to understand that, and then almost reprogram all those nodes as you talk about, to then have that feeling of like, wait, there is no such thing as abandonment. Something's always with me, whether you want to call it God or the universe, whatever word you're comfortable with. And when you lean into that and you have that backbone with you, you start to act in a lot more of a responsive way. And you're not giving your power to somebody else. You're not creating like this like fake idea that you don't need anyone. And you're able to approach life at a lot more grounded and like calm of a way. Does that make
Yeah, and
sense?
that's
Or did I just ADD
yeah,
it?
no, it's beautiful. And at the core of the fear of abandonment, which is true, is actually the fear that we are unworthy of love. Because the day we know and own in our heart that we're worthy of love, then we're not afraid of being abandoned anymore. So the core wound for all of us is the fear that something is wrong with us. And since
Yeah.
something is wrong with us, then I can be abandoned. And
And yeah.
it creates all these reactions. And so that's why all the work that we do, and we're going to speak on this podcast, is to make sure that we only feel abandoned when we abandon ourselves. We only
Yeah.
feel abandoned when we abandon ourselves. Because if you don't abandon yourself, then you're connecting with your heart. And your heart is a connection to your soul, to God, whatever you want to call it. And by doing this, you don't feel alone. You feel, like you said, like all one. You
Mm-hmm.
feel at one with the unit. It doesn't feel lonely anymore. And that's what I really want for all of us to explore through this podcast as we go along each week and go deeper. Because, sometimes, I watch a movie and I watch one of these stupid shows where you're supposed to marry someone without
Love. Is
knowing
that
them,
is
or
that Love is Blind you're talking about?
uh, there is one, I think it's called 90 Day
Yeah,
Marriage.
same idea. 90 Day Fiance.
And it's like, oh my goodness, the ideas that are promoted in that's going to destroy people, because it's really like you toss a coin. And if you really think that you can have everything by not knowing somebody. Everything is just a fantasy. Like, I had a client come to see me quite a few years ago. She came to see me for one session or two sessions only. She was quite young. She was in her 20s. And she was getting married, bought a house. She had the $10,000 wedding dress. They were going to have like 150 guests. And 3 weeks after the wedding, she was leaving her husband. So you could tell, like, some people really are stuck in a fantasy world, and that's how people get hurt. But we need to escape in a fantasy world when we have pain. So it's like a catch-22. So that's why we need to really help people know that we have control, and the control is about us really connecting with our own hearts so that we'll never abandon ourselves. Because I'm going to tell you this story. I'm going to share a personal story. So quite a few years ago, I felt totally in infatuation with this guy.
Okay.
And I was teaching in France, and I couldn't wait to see him. And I was at the airport, and I bought presents for him. I get back home, and the phone rings, and it's him. It's like, oh, wow, he's calling me. It's amazing. And he says, I'm calling you, Lise, to let you know that I no longer wish to continue this relationship. Goodbye. Click. And it was like, oh, ow, ow, ow. So I'm lying in bed and I'm crying, and the pain of losing my infatuation was really deep. And like, oh, I hurt so much, I said I wanted to die. And I went, oh, Lise, did you really hear what you just said?
Mhm.
You're willing to harm yourself. You're willing to harm yourself because of somebody who's obviously not your mate. And it was a big aha moment. It's, if you don't trust relationship, it's not that we don't trust relationships, we don't trust ourselves to be there no matter what happens. And that totally changed my way of being and looking for a relationship. So the reason I started Soul Worthy Love program is because of my own journey, because I had no idea. I have an amazing partner. He's perfect. We've been together almost 6 years now. But it came through a journey of discovering the difference between infatuation and love, and also of the need that we all need to be connected to our own heart so that we can make wise decisions, so that we're
So
not at the mercy of others.
I think part of why you brought me on here is to sort of like maybe translate what you're saying so some men can understand in their own way. So like
Yeah, I love that.
what
Yes.
comes to my mind with what you're speaking about, and this actually was a conversation yesterday. I was sitting with two guys that are a little bit, one's like in his 60s, the other one's in his 50s. And we were just talking about business and entrepreneurship. And one of them who's 65, he's in a good place now financially, but he was telling me like, this was maybe 2014, so 14 years ago. He was like pulling from his savings, running a deficit of $10,000 a month. But because he got to where he got to himself and believing himself in the past, he was comfortable getting close to a bankruptcy point because he knew he'd be able to flip it around and build another business. And then the other guy with me, he actually is an entrepreneurial coach. And he's like, most entrepreneurs go bankrupt like 2 to 3 times before they actually come up with like that really big idea. So if everything's sort of a resemblance of everything, sorry, what sparked that conversation was the difference between someone who inherits all their money and somebody who builds it themselves. And the idea is like people who just build it themselves, they have this like groundedness in them where they can then move forward in the world because they've done it once before, or they've had to really learn how to rely on themselves, that fear of starting over again isn't as like doom filled as someone who's been handed something and got used to this like comfy environment. So in like the nature of like something in a relationship sense, if you can get to this point where what you're talking about, like you're connected to your own heart, you have your own back, even if a situation blows up in the way you don't want it to, if you can get back to that point, the future is not as terrifying as if you've never actually done the work. So a lot of people say like when you end a relationship, you need some personal time to develop yourself. But what most people do is they just jump from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship to avoid building that like base and that foundation. But when you build that base and foundation, then you're not in this infatuation sort of, what's the other option of infatuation? When you
True love.
yeah, true. You're like not bouncing between the two. You understand like, wait, I'm totally good on my own. I'm going to put up boundaries where I need to put up boundaries. I'm only going to invite things in that are actually healthy and not this idea of like emotional whirlwinds that some people get stuck in.
Yeah. And people often jump from one relationship to the next relationship because they don't want to feel the pain.
Right.
And so every time you meet a new person, like the high, apparently the high of infatuation is as high as, uh, taking drugs,
Well,
taking
the term is
heroin.
called monkey branching. There's a term for it. So
Yeah.
where people like, how monkeys will jump between two branches. It's the
Mhm.
same idea. It's like leaving that one relationship. They won't let go until they have the other one set. And like they're really scared of that in between moment where there is no branch.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
And it's interesting because I was speaking with John Gray, the men are from Mars, women are from Venus,
Yeah.
and he was telling me how the average man will only stay alone 9 months after a relationship ends, either like partner dies or is a divorce. The average woman is 3 years.
Really?
Yeah. So a lot of
I would have thought it
men,
was the other way around, actually.
no, the average man is 9 months, the average woman is 3 years. And it's easier for women. It's so much easier for women to get relationship. Like men want to hit on us all the time. For men, you have to work more actively on that.
I guess it
But
depends on the guy you are. Yeah. No, I'm joking.
it depends on the guy. Yes. But on average, he's pretty knowledgeable. This is what he says. And my experience matches him too, because a lot of men are not willing to do the inner work because they're so scared. And this is one of the reasons I'm passionate about working with men. I love working with men. Except men, when you were brought up, if it's not your parents, it's even your peers, you're not supposed to cry. So you're not supposed to feel these emotions you're feeling. So as a little boy, you're feeling these emotions, but big boys don't cry. Like the other kids will make fun of you if you're feeling emotions. So little boys, they go, I'm feeling this, I guess it's wrong. So they just put a lid on it. So they don't, it's just, under pressure in the pressure cooker, and it stays there. And they're so afraid of doing the inner work because what's going to happen to me if I open the lid? Is like, is a monster going to come out of this? So that's why I really believe that men who are courageous, if you look at the word courageous, it has the French word cœur in it, which is French for heart. Men who are courageous and want to be powerful, really powerful, not just in their head, because as a human being, you can live through your mind, you can live through your gut, or you can live through your heart. And a strong mind is actually a very dangerous place to be because it works for logical things, but comes a day where you cannot logically face a challenge because the emotions are too strong and then you fall apart.
So this is where what helped me as a man to sort of work through this, because this idea of like you got to work on your emotions, you can see how like men put up like a barrier to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was always really drawn to sort of like the mystical, spiritual side of things. So in if you look at like Taoist Qigong, they talk about we have all these different energy centers, like we have 7 chakras or energy centers, and the mind is linked up to something called Kundalini energy, and your groundingness is Kundalini force, and they both have positive and negatives, and you need both of them. The problem is there's only 2 places that you can amplify energy where it's safe, and then there's only one place to store your energy. So your heart is a really is an expander of energy. Your reproductive organs are an expansion of energy. Those are the only 2 places. But if you let too
Mm-hmm.
much energy sit in your brain, they believe something comes up that's called Kundalini psychosis,
Wow.
because your brain cannot handle consistent amount of energy and will just start spiraling out like it's too much of a creator. So the safest place to store it is your gut, which is why they say, oh, I have a gut feeling. And then when you want to amplify energy, you bring it into your heart and you can amplify it. So like for
Yeah.
me, when I heard that, it was like, okay, yeah, if I'm living too much in my brain, like it's not a safe grounded place. Like I have to put that energy somewhere else. So like even, you know, when we were talking about this idea of all one and all alone, or sorry, all one or alone, if the second I say that, I can feel the response in my body get heavier and I just feel calm and safe, where it's like, oh no, no, we're all one. And then when you're alone and you're in your mind trying to figure all this stuff out, it's sort of like a little bit of a panicked energy. So it's like, it's not that you need to be overly emotional all the time, but understanding that you need a balance of those two,
Yeah.
the process stuff, that's sort of
If,
the
if
path
you,
forward. And that,
yeah, if you're
and
too much in your head,
yeah,
your data. If you're too much in your gut, you're an emotional basket case. So the key
correct.
to bring both together into the heart where true power is. And what you're talking about, like I've had a client come to see me and he ended up having what's called a Kundalini psychosis. And he ended up actually, in a
Yeah.
mental institute for a while because it's dangerous to play with these energy if you're not grounded, and you can actually have psychosis. Our time is up, unfortunately, but we'll be able to continue this amazing conversation with Jordan. Anything you want to say quickly, Jordan?
No,
before we
I
go?
like it. I haven't done a podcast in a year, so it was fun to do one. I used to do them more often, but it was good to get into this again. So thank you for bringing me on. And yeah, I look forward to diving deeper into all these topics. They're fun and exciting.
Great. Bye, everyone. Remember, love is safe. If it's not safe, it's not love. And if you enjoy our podcast, please forward it to other people. And we want to grow this movement of consciously loving people because that's how we can actually transform the world. Bye, everyone.